Hey everybody, it's me, Gardiner, the Linux Gamer. I wanted to take a minute and talk about the Steam hardware survey. I talked about it in the podcast. If you haven't watched that, there's a link up here. But one of the things that I found very interesting was the day after I recorded the podcast, Pierre-Louis Graffet, I'm really bad with names, he said that there was a bug in the Steam hardware survey on how it was reporting the operating system. So there, basically what was happening was the hardware survey was rounding down small numbers. So a handful, if there was only a handful of people using some obscure Linux distro, then those actually weren't being rounded up appropriately to 0.01% or whatever. And after taking those into account, Linux representation on the hardware survey went from 0.71% to 0.78%, which is a massive increase in numbers. So his tweet read, "Just fixed a small rounding error in the hardware survey that was affecting reported Linux usage. Distributions with less than a handful of users weren't getting factored into the total percentage. Numbers for September have just been updated." And if you click on the link, you will see that we are now at 0.78% of all Linux users. Now, if you do the math, if you take the 150 million, let me get a calculator here. If you take the 150 million users and you multiply it by 0.0078%, then you get 1,170,000 Linux users on Steam. That's nothing to shake a stick at, as far as I'm concerned. That's a massive number, actually. And to hear people say, those Linux people, they only represent 0.78% of the operating systems that use Steam. 0.78% of 150 million people is a not insignificant number. There are a ton of us Linux users out here, and to dismiss the fact that we like to have fun on our favorite operating system is to dismiss any small but passionate group of people, and you shouldn't do that. If you're passionate about something, don't be afraid to stand up and say how much you love something, especially if you're a nerd, because that's kind of the definition of being a nerd. It's wearing your passion on your sleeve. So this idea that's proffered that we as a Linux gaming community are this small, obscure, and insignificant portion of all gamers, especially PC gamers, I feel like that does a disservice to what it means to be a nerd to begin with. We're all, to varying degrees, going to be marginalized in some way as nerds. And I think we should love and respect people who might disagree with us, who might think differently than us, who might like things that we don't like. For example, I'm not a huge fantasy fan. I don't care for Lord of the Rings or those kind of things, personally. I'm much more of a Star Trek fan, but I'm not going to go out of my way to crap on people who are passionate about Lord of the Rings, because in all honesty, when I look at someone who loves Lord of the Rings, I don't see a nerd necessarily. I see someone who shares the same kind of passion that I have about Star Trek, but towards something that is different. And that's wonderful, and that's awesome, and I love that. So if we as a community, not just as Linux users, but as PC gamers, as gamers in general, if we can actually embrace other people who have slightly different passions, who have slightly different enthusiasm for things, I think we'll be stronger and better as a group of people. And yeah, that's my video for today. What do you think? Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm an idiot? leave me a comment down below or hit me up on Twitter at the Linux Gamer. If you believe in the work that I do, you can support the show with a monthly contribution over on Patreon, or you can pick up a t-shirt. There's a link down below. But no matter what you do, whether you hit that like button or share this video with your friends, don't forget to subscribe to see more from me, the Linux Gamer. And as always, thanks for watching.